Okay, so we're looking at the Aeneid, Book 1, lines 8 through 33. We're just going to do a little part right here. Vergil has just been invoking the muse, telling the muse to remind him of the story, what kind of a goddess would do such things, what terrible things Aeneas had to undergo. So let's start in line 12. Urbs antiqua fuit, Tyrii tenuere coloni. Alright, herbs is where we're going to start. It's definitely nominative. And herbs is a feminine noun. And you just have to know that. Herbs is third declension. But because it's feminine, we can see that antiqua goes with herbs. So what kind of a city was it? An ancient city. And then fuit's our verb. Fuit's the third principal part of sum. Sum, esse, fui. So this is the perfect tense. Esse. And a perfect tense gives you a real feel of completeness, that it's no longer. So not only was there a city, the perfect tense tells you the city no longer exists. So to a modern Roman who's reading this, they would get that feeling. So this is an easy part. There was an ancient city. Tyrii tenuere coloni. Tyrii is our adjective, and colony is our noun, and they're both nominative, so they go together. What kind of colonists? Tyrian colonists. And that means they're from Tyre, which is where the Phoenicians were from. It's one place that Phoenicians lived. And Carthage was a city founded by Phoenicians. Phoenician culture is based on trade and sailing. They were excellent sailors. And Carthage is basically a colony built by Tyrians who are Phoenicians. Now, tenuere looks like an infinitive, but in fact it's not. It's a shortened form of tenuerunt. So it's they held. And this is called syncope or syncopation. Syncope. It's a syncopated verb. It gets rid of some syllables, and tenuerunt, the erunt ending is really hard to scan. It makes a lot of problems with dactylic hexameter, so it's rare to see it. You rather see the syncopated form. So who held? The Tyrian colonists. The Tyrian colonists held the city. There's an understood it. Right. There was an ancient city. Tyrian, or from Tyre, colonists from Tyre held it. Or Tyrian colonists held it. And then we have finally the name of the city, Carthago. It's nominative, it just renames herbs. What's the city's name? So there was an ancient city. Tyrian colonists held it, Carthage. So now there's a little bit about where is Carthage. Italiam contra Taberinaque longe Ostia. There's a little bit of enjambment there where we have to go to the next line to find Ostia. Now, contra is a big, love it, prepositions. Contra is always followed by accusatives. Contra means opposite. Well, opposite what? Two things here that are accusatives. So opposite Italiam, okay, that's one accusative thing. And Ostia is accusative. Tiberina describes what kind of Ostia is it? What kind? It's an adjective. So here's our adjective that describes Ostia. And longe is an adverb here. It just means far. It's far opposite. Now, there's a couple things with Tiberina and Ostia. This is really plural, and it means like the opening of the river, the mouth of the river. We're only talking about one. But this is neuter, plural, a. This is called a poetic plural. There are a few other times you see it. It's to give a sense of greatness and grandeur. So Carthage, far opposite Italy, and then our que is our and. Far opposite Italy and the mouth of the Tiber River. So in Latin, this is really an adjective. We don't have an adjective in English, like Tibernian. We don't have a word for it, so we just have to say the mouth of the Tiber. But it really means something like Tibernian mouth. Okay, and then here's a little bit more description of Carthage. Carthage is dives opum studiisque asperima belli. So the things that describe Carthage are dives and asperima, rich and harsh. And these other things are how rich is it? What kind of rich is it? What kind of fierce is it? So it's rich, and this may look accusative, but it's third declension, so this is genitive plural . It is rich of power, which sounds funny in English. Sort of, it's rich in power. And our que, and asperima is also, it's nominative and it's superlative. It's not just harsh or fierce, it's very harsh, very fierce. Studiisque is called an ablative of respect. So in what respect is it harsh? It's harsh in the zeal or pursuit. Belly is a normal genitive. It's very harsh, very fierce in the pursuit of war. Asperima is feminine because it refers back to herbs and Carthago, which are both feminine. Alright. The next part actually spans 2 lines. Quam uno fertur terris magis omnibus unum post habita coluisse samo. Quam just means which, and it refers back to the city. A city which, so I would draw all the way back to herbs. I'm going to draw a line. Which Juno, and fertur is a special idiom, is said. Juno is said. And after a word like that, we want an infinitive. She is said to have played soccer. She is said to have cooked dinner. And so looking through here, we find one infinitive, and it's coluisse. So you kind of have to jump from fertur to coluisse. The isse ending is not a normal infinitive, it's a perfect infinitive. She is said to have cherished. So which city she is said to have cherished? Well, how much? Magis is just a simple comparative. More. And after comparatives, you have ablative of comparison, which makes sense. So more than what? The thing that you're comparing it to goes in the ablative. More than all the world, all the lands, sort of all the other lands. And then we have this poor little unum, which just means alone. This city alone, which alone, you could say, which alone Juno is said to have cherished, oh, there it is, more than all the lands. So this is out of all the whole world, she cherishes Carthage the most. Post habita Samo, and the book will tell you this is an ablative absolute. Ablative absolute. We have one participle in the ablative, so this would be a long A because it's ablative. One noun in the ablative, so this would be a long O because it has to be ablative. With the noun having been verbed is how you translate ablative absolutes. So here you'd say, with Samos, which is in Greece, having been placed after, having been placed behind it in importance. So there was an ancient city, Tyrian colonists held it, Carthage, far opposite Italy and the mouth of the Tiber, rich of wealth or rich of power, and very harsh in zeal of war, which alone Juno is said to have cherished more than all the lands. You might say with even Samos having been placed after it. The two heeks mean here. And we have a special thing here. It's called a hiatus. What that means is this O and this I should elide, but they don't. So there has to be a hiatus there. If you tried to elide it, it wouldn't scan properly. So there must be a really strong pause there, which is all hiatus means. It just means a pause. And it looks like that. They're called railroad tracks. You put two lines because you have to stop at railroad tracks. And they're in music too. Here, and our verb's down here. We're going to use it twice. Here were the weapons. One armum, two arma, so it's plural. Here were the weapons, Elias, genitive, of that person. We're talking about Juno. Here were her weapons. Here were her arms. Here was her chariot. So she kept her special things there. And then we have hook. When you have hick, hook, that's called anaphora. Anaphora is the repetition of similar, or the same word, at the beginning of successive clauses. So we have three successive clauses, one clause, then another succeeds it, another succeeds it. And we have the same word or sound, hick, hick, hick. It's like when you repeat yourself, I do not want to go to the store, I do not want to go to sleep, I do not want to do my homework. That's anaphora. Alright, and we're going to stop after the end of the sentence, which is kind of complicated. Okay. Hoc and regnum go together. Our nominative is dea. This is the subject of our verbs, which are way down here at the end. Get rid of that. And we have two quays, which means both something and something else. And then we have a yam tum, which is difficult. Now then. Now then. Now then. The goddess, the nominative. both cherished and favored. What? The accusative thing, hoc regnum. This city, this kingdom. This city to be for all people. Genti just means for people, but the idea is for all people. This is the kingdom over everybody. It's not just the kingdom over the Carthaginians. It's everybody. Now, esse means to be, right? She cherished and favored this city to be for all the people. You have to get your now then in there somewhere. Si qua fata senat is what we're left with. Si means if. Whoop. If. There we go. Qua means in some way. If in some way, somehow. Fata is plural. When you talk about the fates, it's almost always plural, but one fate is just fatum. So fata, if in some way the fates senat. Now it goes sino, sinere. So it's third conjugation. So you wouldn't expect to have an A there. You would expect for it to be a U. Well, what the A says is that it's present subjunctive. Right, the pattern, I don't know how you learned it. Let's eat caviar is one. She wears a diamond is another. Let's eat caviar. So the vowel for the first conjugation's E, the second's EA, and the third is A. So it's third conjugation, and we see the vowel A there. It's subjunctive because of the if. If something should happen, if something could happen, these things aren't facts, so they require a subjunctive verb. Here, because it's present subjunctive, that kind of conditional is called future less vivid. We're talking about something that's going to happen in the future, but we're not sure. So not something that's happening now. Future, and then maybe it's going to happen, maybe it's not. So you'd say, if in some way the fates might allow, if they should allow it. So she wanted it to be a kingdom for all the people if the fates would allow it, which we know they didn't. And so, of course, it's subjunctive. Subjunctive verbs are verbs that aren't quite real in the sense of factual. So if you said, if I were an Oscar Mayer Wiener, right? I'm not, so we can't say that. Subjunctives are, if it were to rain, I would not go to school. But it's not raining, so I did go to school. All right, there you go.